Hello and welcome to All For United WFC. Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC. We've got the Lionesses on in the background for two reasons, Mary Earps and Ella Toon. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one. I can see Connor with his earpiece in already. Connor, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this ever since Tuesday when you asked me to come on. So I'm well prepared. So
Awesome.
let's go.
Yeah, good to get you back on as well. So yeah, keep us updated because I think you're a little bit further ahead than I am in the game. John, welcome back, mate. How are you?
Hello there, mate. Okay. Well, I was up until about Tuesday.
You're frozen on my screen. You're frozen on our screen in quite a serial killer pose as well. So that's the.
Maybe I'll come back shortly. And hello, Karen, in the comments. Atanu, welcome back. How are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, John. Thanks for having me.
How's your podcast going? Okay.
Yeah, it's going good.
Good. And
Am I back?
Oh yeah, you're back, John. We've got you back. Nice one. Yeah. Andy, how's your week been, mate?
That's all right. Yeah, you know what I'm like. It's glad it's the weekend. Shame there's no football. Shame there's no obviously United this weekend. But I'll catch up on the rest of the Lionesses after this probably, and I'm really pleased some of ours are starting.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, isn't it? So obviously we've got two started. We've got Zellerman standing fourth in the squad as well. Just keeping with yourself, Andy, on that one. Isn't it great? I would just say to Connor before the game, it's very rare that we actually get to see United players actually in the Lionesses squad, let alone in the starting 11. So we can actually look out for these players, can't we, today? It's great.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope that, I mean, it's kind of the main sort of topic that I'm bringing up. I mean, I hope that, it isn't just because of all the City are injured, because I really do think there maybe has to be a little training session with Woso in the UK. England football team is not City and friends; it is the Lionesses. And we used to joke about that, but I think there's a lot of truth to it, to be honest. So whether or not her hands have been forced or not, new manager, new start, very similar to Skinner if you think about it with ourselves. Hopefully it's going to be on form, and I think it's great that Mary's starting, and obviously Ella Toon starting as well.
It is, it really is. And Atano, thank you for just letting me know about Hansen started for Scotland, Jackie started for the Netherlands, Lad started for Wales. Honor with 2 assists yesterday as well for Spain. Absolutely great. It's great. And they fully deserve it with the start of the season that we've got as well. So we'll keep our eye on the Lionesses. We'll talk a little bit about Tooney going through the show and a lot of other United players as well. I am getting distracted. I've got to stop looking at the screen. We'll talk a little bit about Skinner's comments that he made a couple of days ago. I never got a chance to touch on those yesterday, even though it was a massive show yesterday. If you haven't seen that one, please check it out. 2-hour show with Reece Land and Rhys Laverty. It was an amazing show. If you want to learn some things or get different ideas of the way different people look at things, just check out that show from last night. But yeah, I want to start a little bit about the Conti Cup because obviously the dates have come out now. We know Man City have dropped into our league, so we've now got 5 in our league. And it's going to be very tough, in my opinion, to qualify, not just because of the quality of competition, but there's only one runner-up now, isn't there? One big runner-up, which means that even if we come second, we've kind of got to win every game, apart from the one that we lose that will make us go second. Connor, this is your first experience of the Conti Cup. We've got City, we've got Leicester, we've got Durham, we've got Everton. What are your thoughts when you saw that league as like someone who's like fairly new to women's football? You still know how difficult that league is.
If you want my honest opinion, the very first thought, maybe this is like a naive thing, and I'm still kind of learning more about it, was how little teams there are. Like I thought there would be like a load of groups, and like it's weird that some have got 5, some have got 4, and there's only first place go through and only 1 second place. It's really strange to me. But to be honest, I actually fancy our chances getting through top in the group because Durham, you'd expect us to beat. Leicester, you know, after what I saw on Sunday,
Yeah.
you know, we should have won that game like 7, 8, 9 at times. And Everton as well, you know, should be beating them. So the only game is the City one. Now, you'd expect City to do the same. You'd expect them to beat City. You'd expect them to beat Everton, Leicester and Durham. So it all rests on that one game, doesn't it? That derby game. But barring injuries and you know, fatigue that might come in by the time we play that City game, I don't see why we couldn't top the group. I'm not saying we should, because City are a very good team. But there's no reason why we shouldn't be getting through. I was just surprised at, I said honestly, how little teams there were kind of in this cup. And like you said, only 4 teams go through, is it? It goes straight to semi-finals after that? I'm assuming with the lack of groups, it goes straight to 4 teams, which is semi-finals.
I think it'll be 8. I'm guessing Chelsea and City. So Chelsea and Arsenal get a bye, don't they, to the following round? So they automatically go through.
Right.
So that makes up the numbers, doesn't it, with your second place runner-up? So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. Like I think I'm not saying we're going to struggle, but I think it's going to be a struggle for whoever's second in our league. I can kind of understand that. But what we did see in our second season, our first season in the WSL, is that we did top our group and we did do really well. We won City. I remember that game at LSV, Andy. I don't know if you was there in that Conte game where a City player got sent off and we ended up winning that game. That shows that we can beat City, doesn't it, Andy? And we can top our league.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's funny with the Conti Cup because it has so much potential to be a lot more what it is. I mean, you just got to see the disdain that the FA treats it with. You know, who the hell has a buy into the quarterfinals? I'm not buying any bullshit on that. You know, I mean, if that you try and do that with the Carabao, there'll be revolt. There'll be you know, a revolution. And most men's fans don't like the Carabao. So you know, it's one of those. You know, there's not really that many. All right, you've got the FA Cup and it's still a bit of a mess because of last season's overflow. There isn't that many opportunities for cup games for the women's team. And, you know, at the end of the day, you had an opportunity there to make quite a decent hybrid between, obviously, the Carabao and the men's, and maybe, you know, sort of try and sort of touch something slightly with the FA Cup as well. But I think, you know, City doing what they've done, which is great for us, obviously, and dropping in gives it a bit more credibility. But the top 3 teams in the WSL just walking into the quarterfinals. Basically, what the FA are basically saying is, it doesn't really matter this, does it? We're just kind of going through the motions. Yeah. So that I would, you know, we did a thing. I don't know if you remember on Twitter, John, that we used to do a thing, respect the Conti Cup, like as a hashtag. And I think it has its place. The only thing about Durham, Connor, you might not know, is that they really, really don't like us. There's a reason why we've added them to a couple of chants. And to be honest, they're kind of Phoenix neutrals, so you're going to expect a proper grudge match, even though they're in the below league. They did beat us in.
Sorry, I do apologise. Toons just had a header from about 5 yards out, like free header, and put it wide. I don't know how he's missed from there.
I was more worried about it being Macedonian than I thought. Jesus, I've just sort of, you know, talked up Mary and she's done a howler or something like that. But yes, Durham is. Yeah. Just
to interrupt, can you give me like a brief? I'm sorry, John. I don't want to take over the show, but like, why is that? Why do they hate us? Because obviously in the men's game, Durham and nothing. Like, why did Durham hate United, or vice versa?
Well, basically, we went up to. It's a different stadium now, but we went up to them in the first season when we were in the championship, and they did beat us in the champion at home, and I think they drew at LSV as well. But the thing is for some reason they seem to have been the antithesis of, you know, we don't want chanting, we don't want banging, we don't want any of that. So when you know, there's a small group of us that were at their stadium. I say stadium, it was basically a park and a stand. Their New Ferns Park, I think, is what it was called. And you know, and for some reason we were obviously going, you know, doing what we normally do, support the players quite a lot. I remember there's a penalty that they scored against Shiv, and the whole team sort of ran over to where we were and sort of went like that, which was great, actually. But then there was some stuff online about, you know, us fans. You know, we normally like to make friends with the away fans, but you know, these United lot are unfriendly and all this kind of crap. And so there's an element to that, and they've got a bit of that's good. 1-0 then.
Sorry,
Who was it?
Ella soon.
Is it?
Oh,
I'm 2 minutes behind you.
Shall we go? Yeah, let's go to the commentary.
So
Carry on.
so
Sorry,
they've got.
Andrew.
That's fine. It's fine. So they've got. So they're kind of a bit like Reading on steroids in the sense of physicality as well. So it's one of those about getting out of there with all fingers and toes attached. And because even when we were beating teams 6-7-8-0 in the championship, for some reason with Durham we did struggle. So they're not as bad as they look on paper. But it's more. It might be more in the fans' heads about obviously because we got promoted out of the first season. We've never been back to their place essentially. So this is the first time we're going back. So that's why personally, like for me, I'm going to be there, and I really hope we smash them. But as I say, it might be emotion than anything else.
Wasn't Durham the only team that beat us in the championship?
Yeah, the championship level. Yeah, that's the thing.
Kind of, I'm way behind you here because with the start of the counter-attack now, I was a 3-ball to 2-0. I'm guessing this is it. Yeah. That one's easy. I'll say it wasn't easy.
Wow, some Brummy went there, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't know what you mean.
She's running the show in the first 15 minutes. She's absolutely running the show.
She could have scored a header as well, to be fair. It's only because she's probably not used to scoring headers or even heading the ball. So,
she playing number 10?
Well, she's got number 10 on her back. I think that the formation is that she's one of 2 attacking midfielders, but she's playing down the centre here. And
I was going to say she's almost up alongside Ellen, like in between White and Hemp. Like she's so high up.
That's brilliant. Well, I think this is a good time to actually start this conversation then. So, whose topic was it? The false 9? Was it yourself, Atanu? With it being Tooney false 9?
Yeah. I think Skinner also commented on playing Ella Toon as their false 9. So basically, the gist of what he said after the game was that we don't need to put labels. Like even if she's a number 10 or she's playing as a number 9, let's not put labels on it and just enjoy whatever she's doing. And I think personally for me, I'm very fascinated by these labels. Like we put Paul Pogba as the number 8 or Scott McTominay as the number 8. So, similarly, like I think Ella Toon is the number 10, which is the central attacking midfielder position. But at the same time, what Marc Skinner said made a lot of sense. That why do we put labels on players? Like there was a lot of hate or just sort of a meltdown when Tooney started as the false 9 again against Leicester. But then she played really well. She scored that amazing goal. So after that, the meltdown was toned down a bit. So I just think that in some games, playing Tooney as the false 9 or whatever the position is, according to Marc Skinner, doesn't actually hampers the squad. It just means that Hansen and Garton are the wing forwards, like wide forwards. So I think the meltdown that was there after Tooney started as the false 9 was a bit too much in my opinion. And we are trying different things. Marc Skinner is trying different things. So I think some days it might work. Like against Reading, she wasn't too much involved, even though she got the 2 assists. But at the same time, we see the Leicester game and she did really well. I'm not saying that we didn't need a Martha Thomas or a Alessia Russo in that game, but Tooney did really well in that position.
Yeah, I actually thought it was the other way around. I thought she played. I don't think she played better, but I think she was more effective against Reading because I think we played further up the field. I think one of the problems with Leicester, and I think, like we said, I think a lot of that had to do with the team mentally recuperating from Millie's injury, was they pulled back, they dropped quite further back. And I think all the thirds because Katie Zellen was taking the ball off the back, she was dropping back. And I think the forwards became really isolated, so that false 9 didn't work because the premise of it is the ball into the false 9, you have to have runners going forward, breaking the space beyond that false 9. And they just couldn't do it because they just had too far to go. So like I said, I think that was a problem with Katie Zellen. I think better game management was needed, but I also think it was probably a reaction to everything that happened on that field because you could tell everybody was really distressed. So you can't hold it against them. I've been on the field when somebody has a nasty injury. I've had a nasty injury, so yeah, I can understand why, even as professionals, it affected them. So I actually think the opposite, effectiveness, whether not necessarily better play, but effectiveness. I think she was more effective against Reading, and I think that's why we needed Martha to come on against Leicester, because they were so isolated. We needed another body up front. But I've really enjoyed it, and I think it works really well for Ella because she's so more aware of her space than any other player on that field. I mean, Leah Galton's probably the best quality we have on the field, but even her pales into comparison into Tooney's tactical understanding of the game and finding that space. She's just so brilliant at it. I mean, she literally is the Bruno of the women's team.
I think, is that how you described her, Connor, or Mark, or someone described her as that as well, compared it to that, like,
yeah.
If you look at the Leeds game, the way Bruno was playing, he played up more the Cantona role that if you remember Cantona, how he played, he was so far up, and he was actually the first man in the box, and that's the way Tooney has been. Is sort of she's dropping so far back. She needs runners past her. She needs other players. I think it was just nearly another miss.
Literally, Tooney could have scored 4.
I was going to say she should have had a hat-trick already in the first 20 minutes of this.
And that is a problem at the moment. That's the next level she's got to get to. Proliferation in front of goal. She's skillful. She's got awareness, but she does miss a lot of chances. I think that probably works perfectly.
Yeah, I think you're bang on what you said in terms of, like, she's playing like a Cantona, because I don't actually think she can stay in the false 9 for the whole season. I don't think she's necessarily quick enough to be a striker, if that makes sense. She's definitely got technical ability, and she can definitely do it against the likes of Reading. The difference for me between Reading and Leicester, the two games, the Leicester game, the fullbacks were higher and wider, which is what you need when you're playing a false 9. You have to have width because you're two inside forwards, Galton and someone help me out.
Hansen.
I couldn't think of the name. Comes so narrow because there's no striker there. Then you need your fullbacks higher and wider, which is what happened against Leicester, which is why we created more. And also, Staniforth and Zelen were helping Tooney out a lot more in the second game against Leicester than they were against Reading. So I would actually like to see it in that back, I don't know from last season, back in like a number 10 role, like a Cantona, because United play Fernandes, for example, in the men's team. They play him in a 10. He doesn't play as a 10. He plays up alongside Ronaldo, as a front two. Yeah. And it's like it turns into a 4-2-4 almost. You've got your wingers, your 10 playing just a little bit off the striker. And I think that's what she's doing well in this England game, actually, just watching as a live example. She's playing so high up. You've got the two players behind her, and she's making those runs past the striker, and it's actually really hard to defend against. So for me, I don't think she can. I wouldn't want her to play a false 9 for the whole season, because I think you've got players that can come in, and also I think she can be. She's been brilliant the first two games, but even more effective just behind a proper striker.
Yeah, Sorry, Andy, you go.
I was just jumping in there, but. No, I mean, at the end of the day, Skinner can't sort of go, well, we kind of messed up on the striker situation, but there's always January. I mean, he's got to come up with some sort of way of explaining it, and I think if you say she can do it, but it's not ideal. And we know in international teams, like, obviously, I believe Rachel Daly is playing defence tonight, which is a bit random. It's a bit Phil Neville-esque, when in reality, she's a, he sort of I think he spun a wheel at the beginning of every match. That's how everyone's going to play. But I'm with you. I think maybe possibly she's being used as a holding piece until Martha Thomas gets a bit of form. Obviously, she's got her first goal against Leicester. I don't think she's a super striker that's going to score 20 a season, like unfortunately that West Ham supporter said. But I wish it was true. But if we can get the numbers up, and obviously we're scoring across the pitch at the minute, so. That's also important. I think she's going to be there until we get a decent striker, whether that be Martha suddenly getting on form, maybe moving Leslie more as a forward rather than a winger. But then obviously you can play her either way. And she obviously is doing all right where she is. But as you can say, it's more natural that she's a 10, not a 9.
I think what's interesting as well, Andy, is when we first started maybe not the first season, but in the second season, they still had Tooney down as the striker. Now, you can understand Galton and Hansen being down as a striker. I'm on about on the Man United app.
Yeah, I hate that, but yeah.
They talked about Tooney being a striker, and she's a goal scorer, but not necessarily a striker. All of a sudden now, she's kind of playing a striker role. We thought at the start of the season, would they kind of put her on the right-hand side because we never bought a right winger that allow Balrisa to start with Jackie, Ladd, and maybe some other person as well if needs be. Whereas that's kind of gone out the window. And I do agree with you, Andy. I think this would never have come about if we had a fit striker. But it's worked out okay at the moment. If it wasn't for Tooney, if it was like someone else playing that role, like maybe like Stanley Forth or Balrisa, Jackie, or anyone else, they wouldn't have been able to do that role. Whereas Tooney, thankfully, has got those abilities to do that. John, did you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, it's down to her movement. She's so clever, and I'm so surprised. She's 22? 21, 22? Like yeah. I mean, for a player that young in a game that's still developing, to have such awareness around, she's definitely more of a second striker than the creative number 10. I think we could all agree with that. She's not going to be an Ozil that's spraying passes and getting people in. She's going to be the one that either breaks past the striker or is backing up the striker and getting bodies in the box. And I think the way she runs, late runs into the box, I forgot which goal it was against. It was against Leicester City, but she broke into the opposite side of the box and press. Found with a ball, bang, goal. She's so good at finding the movement she does and finding space. She's just ideal for it. But I totally agree with Connor. I think she would benefit from playing with a forward. The only problem is at the moment, who do you drop? Because I think our midfield has been playing so well that it's hard to go right then. Because that's where that's where the body comes from. She has to go into the midfield, or we have to drop somebody from that midfield three. I think the other thing is it's possible because of the Blundell signing. We've got two wide fullbacks that are actually giving us width and being dangerous. So you can see actually, I see more about what they've done in the summer actually coming to fruition. And I think if you looked at the training this week, I think it was you, Andy, who made a comment when you saw the training for Russo. It was about coming in off the right.
I'll take it. I don't know if I said it, so I'll take that.
I can't remember now. It was one of you. It could have been Sanu or I don't know, one of you anyway. And I was thinking,
tactical for me. But go on.
Yeah, it was definitely very clear that they're working on being much more flexible, and I think that's the thing. I spoke to someone on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and they said, "Well, he doesn't know his best 11." I don't think it is about a best 11 anymore. It's about being flexible and who will win that game. And I think the days of best 11 are probably on the wane because it's who suits that opposition, who's going to get you the goals, and I think in the same way, set positions are going. You see it with the men's game. They want much more flexible players, and I think this is why the argument we want a destructive DM or we want this DM or we want that DM. I think that's by the by. They just want a midfielder, a la Roy Keane, who's got good at tackling, good at passing, and they don't have to be the best passer because you can have a better passer next to him. Do you know what I mean? But they've got to be able to do it.
Yeah,
and I think. Sorry, mate. You carry on.
Sorry, we're just there's a bit of a delay there, isn't there? But
shut me up.
I think, to be honest, you got to look at the squads. I mean, Woso in WSL, it's a very small squad. So if you have a boiled in, set 11 like we discussed before, it's so much easier to work out how to set up against. I mean, we've discussed multiple times in the case, people would get one or two wrong on lineup league. Most people would get it all right. That's wrong. I like the idea of setting up for the opposition. It's different than what the other rest of the women's football sort of people do, which is great because that's what we are. We are different, and that's important. As long as they go too far and start swapping keepers every game, which I think is a bit mental, and that started with the Lionesses a little bit, because I don't really think that it necessarily makes sense for keepers as such, in relation to choosing the opposition, but definitely in relation to the rest of the team, because I was saying before, just going back about the striker situation. I think he was genuinely given a choice, or Man United as a group was generally given a choice before Skinner arrived. Do you want to be weak in defence or weak in attack? And he's made the decision to be weak in attack. And the great thing about that is that we're starting to score throughout the pitch, which is something we never really did. And just to sort of finish on Toon, she's grown up so much. I mean, I'm just looking before, apart from the date of birth, it makes me feel old. 1999, by the way, if you really want to suffer along with me. She's just turned 22. So she's not, it's not even like she's 22, 28. She just turned 22. Mm-hmm. And, you just listen to her being interviewed now. She's very professional. I don't know if United have done media training or she's had it with the Lionesses or something like that. And I just think she's going to grow into, into a great player, and she already is. And it sounds like we're getting there tonight. Because don't forget, she's 22. Technically, she could still play for the Devs. And that's one of the weirdest, things to think about, really, isn't it?
I think you're spot on about her attitude. I marked on one of the tweets in the week that her interview was so much more professional. I mean, when her and Billy together, they're always laughing and joking, and that was really great. In some of the interviews they did, it was really personable. But actually, she's gone to a next level. She's gone to a much more professional, serious level, which in some ways you do need to see.
Andy, I want to continue your topic, obviously, because we've been watching the Lionesses as well. There is another player that's been called up from Man United, and I think you want to talk about her.
I know, surprisingly, Katie Zellum. I know, if you look back at some of the videos that the pods that we've done previously, I don't know. I mean, quite right. I think she would have also pointed out some of the issues. But what I'm really loving is what I suppose I would call the renaissance of Katie Zellum. She obviously was our captain for a reason. When Casey first looked at her captain, she was out to lunch last year when she got COVID, unfortunately, and that's why the question came up about do we need another captain? Just like with the manager now with the Lionesses, people are having the question: is Steph Horton going to be the captain going forward? I personally think that would be a bad idea, but that's what I mean. It's a natural thing, new manager, new captain, because a captain traditionally is a liaison between the players and the manager. But what I love, and it started in the pre-season, is that she's starting to score, but she's more vocal on the pitch. And all right, she made a couple of silly mistakes at Leicester, but she obviously was involved, unfortunately, in a massive issue with Millie by accident, and any player is going to find that difficult. And the problem is that every way you get out of that is listening to your manager and your sort of captain, putting your heads together in the next few minutes when they get off the pitch. When the captain's involved in itself, that is an even harder skill, because she personally, mentally, might have been thinking, oh Christ, I've just dislocated Millie Turner's leg, or obviously maybe thought even worse at the time, broken a leg or something like that.
Definitely.
And it's hard to sort of switch your head, and it's probably another measure about actually she probably is the right captain for us, because she did keep her head together, and that is a very, very hard thing to do in that situation, where probably she's aware that we're strongest in midfield out of any part of the pitch. So any silly mistake, any sort of look at this guys on Sky Sports, you could be out for a while. There's people behind you that could easily get in the team and stay in the team. You can't say that obviously about our forwards, but certainly for the midfield. But yeah, what I'm trying to sort of knit together really is obviously Katie's on the bench, Mary's starting, which is fantastic. Ella's starting and absolutely balling, it sounds like, from our resident correspondent Connor there, who's sort of given us the Soccer Saturday feel to proceedings. But what I want to say is, isn't it great that that Man United players are now up for England again? And obviously, maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll open it up. Is there anybody else you think that could get a call up for England?
Yes, but not quite yes, but there will. But it will definitely happen. Luso, she has to. If she comes back,
She's been on, hasn't she, in the past?
Yeah. I think she has been played. She definitely played on the under-19s or something, but I can't remember being called up.
Yeah.
To see.
I think she's been in. I think she's been in the main squad, but hasn't played or not properly competitive.
We need Matt
Blundell as well. Blundell and Mannion as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Mannion, that's one. What's Mannion not doing there?
Yeah, well,
that'll bring us on to Connor's topic shortly. But Asana, just your thoughts on Katie Zellem. And I think Andy said it's like the fact that like this is a brand new star forward now, and she shows some real good mental strength. And just to reiterate what Andy just said about like there being so many good players in our centre of midfield now. No one's safe. The captain's not safe. Jackie's not safe. Bo Reese is not safe. Lad nowhere to be seen at the moment, apart from in Wales. And obviously Staniforth doing really well as well. So it's just really good opportunity for everyone to shine, especially Zellem.
Yeah, definitely. I think the competition in the midfield right now is fantastic, and that's what we needed for quite some time. Because sometimes it looked like favoritism is being is there, and even though players aren't performing well, they aren't being subbed off, or they aren't being dropped. But right now, as you rightly said, that not even the captain is safe. Talking about Katie Zellem, I think she has improved a lot in this preseason. Her passing has improved a bit, her positioning has improved a bit, and she's always been fantastic on the free kicks and corners. So I think she's our set piece specialist in the team. I would prefer her to be on the pitch when we get a free kick near the edge of the box, to be honest. But that shouldn't be the sole criteria for being selected in the team. And as you rightly said, Hayley Ladd as well hasn't been in the team. But I think right now, after Millie Turner's injury, she'll be used as a centre back, in my opinion. So yeah, I think Zellem right now, I think she deserves to be in the starting 11. And let's see. I mean, one mistake and you're out. That's what I think.
I actually think for the captaincy, probably not, because she's actually shown so much leadership. She probably will get that by. But I know what you mean. Generally, for anybody else that's in the midfield, it probably is the case. But I'm just really, I mean, my thoughts on Phil Neville are well documented. I think the guy is over his head, and he's currently sunning himself in Florida. But I don't think that's going to last much longer either, to be honest, personally.
I think we. Sorry to jump in, Andy, but to sort of back up your point, I think one of the problems is a lot of us underestimated the effects of long COVID, which sounds like what she was suffering from. And obviously, it's a little bit different to COVID. It's about having the same symptoms, but they're not slightly as bad, but they are quite debilitating. So if I can relate it to something, it's a bit like ME. That's supposed to be the symptoms.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of us probably did underestimate that. And the more it's become, I think more it's become available, like the information out there, I think it's more probably amazing how she did manage to play some games. I think we saw the effects of it on her.
Okay,
Sorry, Andy, I just wanted to jump in.
Yeah. So Tooney has gone down about 2 or 3 minutes ago. Looks like she's holding a leg.
Yeah,
she's got pain on her face. Yeah, she's got to be subbed off definitely. She's not got up yet. It's about 3 minutes.
She is up. She's limped off, but she's needed 2 people to almost carry it. To be honest, there's no subs warming up though. I'd take her off just as a precaution anyway, because they were
going to see if she could run it off, aren't they?
Yeah, they were focusing a lot about the recovery on her knee, and if it is anything to do with her knee, you don't want to take the risk. So, but there's still no subs kind of stripping off or anything.
She's the sort of player though that's going to go, I can run it off. She's exactly that sort of player, isn't she?
The camera's right on her face. She doesn't look good at all. But yeah, maybe a chance to see Zellem come on. Who knows? But
just go through all the United team at the end of the match. Definitely not.
Enough of the Manchester City being in the Lionesses squad.
Yeah, exactly. The Manchester City managers put a call in. We're City and friends normally. Put the United player on.
The Lionesses game actually took over the show tonight, so it's something different. It's not something I had in mind, but obviously when Tooney's on the pitch, obviously you want to watch it, don't you? And but no, she's got off. She is upset. She's crying. It's not good at all. But least, like Connor said, at least she's kind of made her own way off. Obviously, being helped by a couple of people, but she's not being stretched off at least. So,
God, I'm having PTSD from all those Robson injuries.
And this is why, when I said before I don't like internationals, because this is why it interferes with club football.
Yeah, I mean, I would also add, just as what we're saying, it's like playing for your opposition. It's North Macedonia. Now, let's just all be honest. Now, I'm not going to buy any of that rubbish about respecting the team. It's North Macedonia. So did we really have to bring? I think there's an element of, there was 10-0, wasn't it, last for Norway? 10-0.
Yeah, Norway and Spain 10-0 wins.
And everybody's playing a game of how many can we score? But to be honest, I would, I'm getting affected as a United fan. Obviously, I don't want to I want to protect our players, but I suddenly got a window into the sort of men's fans where they're like, obviously there's that disconnect, isn't there, Connor, between the United and club and country. And I do see the appeal of having her at home, but obviously, I'm very glad she scored tonight.
I think the problem with the men's game is the England men's fans are such absolute, I shan't swear, but shall we say people of questionable parentage. And they hate United players, and United players get dogs abuse, so it's much more of we're going to protect our own.
Connor, do you want to give us an update on Tooney then, and then we can move on to your topic?
Yeah, so she's come back on. She's just made a pass there and jogged into the box. She definitely wasn't at full speed. To be honest, I think it's 10 minutes to half time. They're probably not even that, 7 minutes now. Probably just wait, get to half time, see how she is. She's definitely not sprinting about like she was before. So I said get to half time. There's another injury to the Macedonia keeper now, which doesn't look good either. So this is going to waste 4 or 5 minutes by the looks of this. But yeah, I would take her off at half time just because I love United. I don't want to see her get worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah. She's probably the one going, no, I'll be okay. I want to play on. She's that sort of player. She just loves to play.
Yeah, 100%. So there are a few players, Connor, that we haven't spoken about just yet that you kind of wanted to mention a little bit. So obviously you're like fairly new to women's football, Man United women's team, and there's things that you've been spotting in the past couple of games that maybe we haven't been spotted, or players that you wanted to highlight a little bit more. So yeah, take it away.
Yeah, I think because if you say, for example, there's a new fan watching, if you type in Man United women on Google or Twitter or whatever, you're going to get Galton's name come up, you're going to get Jackie Groenen's name come up, or you're going to get like Hansen or somebody like that, one of the big names. Whereas for me, I've only really seen 2 games live. I've seen a couple of games on TV last year. The 2 players, 3 maybe, that have really impressed me, obviously apart from Toon, Staniforth and the 2 centre halves. Obviously, I know the 2 fullbacks have been brilliant as well, but from what I hear, Maria has shocked people with how well she's played in the first couple of games. I don't think she was kind of first choice going into this season. I don't think people would agree with me there. And same for Mannion as well. Those 2, especially against Reading, and obviously Maria came on, did well against Leicester as well. They both look like proper old school centre backs to me, where they're not afraid to get stuck in. They'll get into a tackle if they need to. They're very composed on the ball, whereas you see it in not just women's football, in the men's game. If somebody's pressuring you down, like Reading were doing to us in the first half when we played them, there's this like tendency to panic and just knock it long. Whereas, especially Maria, I was so surprised at how no, it's fine. You press me if you want. I'll just turn on the ball and play it out to one of the fullbacks or play it back to Mary or whatever. So I have to shout those out because, like I said, you hear all the big names and things like that if you're a new fan to the game, but it's the players that are not necessarily the glamour names that have stood out to me in the first couple of games. I hope it continues, but I guess my kind of question and the topic I want to bring up is we've only really got one example, obviously, of this because we've only played 2 games, but whether Skinner's going to pick players on name status or whether he's going to pick them, like what I mean by name status, like previous performances, maybe last season or their reputation, or whether on current form, because the evidence we've got, Borisa played really well in the first game, Jackie comes back in for her. Maria played very well in the first game, Millie comes back in. Now, I'm not saying these are bad players, but I'll open that up to the panel then. That's a couple of questions. I just wanted to shout those people out, but also, do we think Skinner is going to be that manager that picks players on names or on current form?
I was just saying, who's going to jump in?
You go first, Andy.
The problem is, I'm tempted to kind of say both, which sounds a bit diametrically opposed, but it also isn't. It isn't. I think, he's kind of showing he isn't in reverse because Millie was a member of every single was it every game she played until she's been injured, pretty much, apart from one. So actually, by benching her first game, it's actually showing that hopefully it is just picking it on form or more obviously on who he thinks is going to play well against the opposition.
But Andy, I agree with that. I do. But then on the flip side, on the second game, he plays Millie. He starts Millie, doesn't he? Even though Maria done really well on that first game. I agree. I was playing devil's advocate on that one.
No, he does. But
I did wonder whether. I'm sorry. I did wonder whether he picked Millie because of her speed. She is that bit quicker than Maria, and I think with the Leicester forwards, when I thought back on it, I wondered about that.
Go on, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, it may be. It's all essentially it's a pie chart, isn't it? So it might have been that there was a bigger slice of she's better for Leicester, and a little slice of obviously about changing the name or it being a name situation. I mean, obviously, it's sort of alluded in your question. It isn't really. We're not really aware of. As time will tell to an extent. I think Chelsea next game is going to be interesting because that's the first one where you would say the temptation would be to play our strongest 11, whatever that may be, and to see if those names are different than what we've seen in the first two games, or if that's going to be different in the teams going forward. We're obviously playing City as well. Or England in blue, which is what they used to be called. Quite soon after that, so maybe we'll get an answer to your question after the City game, because then we'll see is he sticking with a strong squad or an experienced squad, or is he actually genuinely chopping it across?
Do you want to jump in on that, John?
Yeah, I agree. It's a hard one. I totally agree with Connor. I've really loved what we've seen from Maria. She was a bit of a cause for concern from last season because coming into the squad halfway through, she didn't gel. We obviously wasn't seeing the best of her. There was a lot of criticism of her. But I just thought from the beginning of pre-season, she had that Yatstam vibe, a real Scandinavian Viking that's going to take over from where we lost Amy T. Because Amy T was our warrior, weren't she? She was the player. If somebody was going to get stuck in, that was her. I've been really pleasantly surprised with Mannion because I didn't know a lot of her. And obviously last season, for much of it, she was injured because of that really bad injury. So the way she's come back has been brilliant. But yeah, Maria's definitely been the one that I think probably the biggest surprise from everybody. And I think if he's going to pick the name, she wouldn't have made that first. She wouldn't have made that first team. I think you've got to introduce players though. You've got to give them game time because they are smaller squads. They're gonna need to play at some point. So playing these players or bringing them on as subs for 5-10 minutes, I'm happy with. I must admit. Sorry.
I just want to bring it on him because I think at the moment he's playing whoever he wants to play. I don't think he's got any thoughts of the past. But I think it'll be interesting to see when people are fully fit. For example, Jackie wasn't fully fit at the start, coming back from the Olympics, was it? And obviously, he's not fully fit yet. When Millie is fully fit, will she come straight back in? I think at the moment, there's a lot of things kind of stopping him from playing some of the players who played last season. And Tony, what's your thoughts on this? Because me personally, I think he'll just do whatever it takes. I don't think he'll be swayed by anything in the past because that was a previous regime. But that's just what I think.
Yeah, I think like Connor asked whether it will be a big name player or according to the form. I think I agree with Andy. He said it's a bit of both. So next up we are playing Chelsea. So I think even if Jackie Cronin is coming back after a tough international break, she'll start because she's a big game player. So and what Marc Skinner has done in the first two games, I think Maria Thorisdottir surprised a lot of people. I think I too was of the idea that Millie Turner and Aoife Mannion will start. So but she's been pretty good in the preseason. So she started against Reading. I don't know why she didn't start against Leicester. I thought she might start against Leicester, but maybe it's about rotating the players because we have the depth right now. It isn't like we don't have good players. We have amazing players in the defense and in the midfield. So I think it's about the rotation as well. So I think it's about the rotation right now.
To be honest, we haven't seen the best of Maria yet. You know, all of last season when she came in January, we hardly saw her. She was put on the right-hand side. I don't know if that's one of the natural positions. I know she played on the right for quite a bit, but she was never going to get in, in front of Turner and Turner. And then the occasion that she did play centre-back after January, we all know that United kind of slipped. So it wasn't a great position to be in for herself. So all of a sudden now, she's got a chance, hasn't she, for us to actually see what she can do. And you don't stay at Chelsea for as long as she did and not actually be a good player. So maybe now we are actually seeing how good Maria actually is, and maybe she will go from strength to strength. And I mean, any other players that you thought of, kind of, I think Staniforth comes to mind. Someone who doesn't really get spoken about much.
Sorry.
Was that really something?
I was listening to your question. Toon was wide open in the middle then. I can't think of who the right back is for it daily, isn't it? Like, just pass her the ball. Oh, that was so frustrating. She was wide open on the 6-yard box and she just went for Ellen White on the edge of the box and she's just skied it. So
in all seriousness, mate, I'd tape this and send it to Sky. I think you've got a new career bubbling. I think you got the men's name knowledge. You'll be there doing the sort of with the screen and stuff, or BT, which is the knockoff version that they do with the.
Well, that is half time anyway. If you want to, I just love it. Obviously, I'm talking in the private chat about it because Ella Toon is involved in every single attack that England go forward, and I think I don't really care what England do. It's more that's why I'm like getting so hyped about it. You asked me a question, John. Well,
we were speaking before the show.
Are you enjoying the England watch along, Tani? By the way.
Yeah. I'm also checking the updates on my phone right now.
You're ahead of us. I'm 2 minutes behind here. For the third time, Connor, Staniforth, what are you thoughts?
Yes. Obviously I shouted her out on my match reaction from Leicester because nobody was really talking about her, and I put on the comments for your reaction show that you did on Monday that we wouldn't have created as many chances as we did if she wasn't in there, because she was the one that was breaking the play up in the middle. And I compared Toon to Bruno because of the influence that she has, and you can tell because as soon as Zadam and Staniforth pick the ball up, that's their first thought, is they're looking for where Toon is, and if she's not on, then they'll go wide. But I shouted Staniforth out for that reason, because she was the one breaking between the line, and you don't always have to have the ball to have an impact on the game. Her movement was enough to free up space for the fullbacks and for Zadam and for Toon in the middle. So that's why I shouted her out, because again, I don't think, someone might correct me here, but I don't think she's a glamour name. She doesn't do, necessarily like what I haven't really seen Jackie, so I can't judge her on what I've seen so far because she's only just come back and things like that. So I'm not going to judge her on that. But what I see from Staniforth is like an all-round midfielder. She can do it all, and like I said, she doesn't have to be on the ball to make an impact, which is what you want from your midfield. To stretch the play, being able to break between the lines, and that's what I saw particularly against Leicester. Not so much against Reading. She still had a solid performance against Reading, but definitely against Leicester. So I kind of just wanted, that whole midfield. I mean, Mark's got, it's a good problem to have, having that many good midfielders in the side. But, there we are. I just wanted to shout her out after Leicester because, like I said, I think that performance went under the radar because she wasn't doing the fancy flicks that you see. She wasn't doing what Galton was doing, which is running at players. She wasn't, a high-flying attacking fullback. But you need someone in the middle, and that's what Staniforth was doing so well. So,
do you want to come in on that one, John?
Yeah, I mean, we said, I think it was a couple of shows back that we did all together. Answering your question, Jackie Groenen is superb. She's a real technical Dutch player of high quality. What she doesn't offer, and what I think Staniforth does, and we talked about this before, is a goal threat. She still hasn't scored for United, whereas Staniforth has. And Staniforth always looks, like you say, to break the lines, to be another person in the box, and that creates space. And I think that's, for me, as much as I like Jackie Groenen and love seeing her play, at the moment, Lucy Staniforth is a better bet because she offers us more penetration. And I think that's the key thing. If you're going to play Jackie, I would play her further back at the moment. But yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I think we talked about people sleeping on Lucy Staniforth. As I said, pre-season, I totally agree with you there, Connor.
Andy, I'm going to start this question with yourself then. No right or wrong answer, Andy, so no pressure. But obviously we've got Chelsea coming up. We can only play 3 in midfield, probably. One, would you put Tooney in the midfield 3, or would you keep her somewhere different? And who would your midfield 3 be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Jackie's in because she used to be at Chelsea, obviously, as well, and you do need that sort of big game sort of mentality there. The only thing she doesn't offer is goals. That's the only problem, unless we suddenly have an orange kit. Fortunately, we can't imagine one
Now
of them.
we are seeing many players, scoring their first goals for United, so we might see Jackie Cronin as well.
But you were there. You weren't there at Leicester, mate. Honestly, it was harder for her not to score than score with someone who's.
Oh, that was the chant, wasn't it? Andy was chanting that she'll score when she won. She'll score.
Well, this was it. But yeah, so basically, Jackie in the centre. Obviously, you're looking at Leah on the wing, and because I'm so aggressive, I'd put Russo on the other side as well. I think you start with a means to go on. If you weren't going to do that, you'd possibly sort of look at obviously maybe Ella and Jackie with Galton as a free, and then Martha Thomas up front. But I think to be honest, especially because of the person we're playing against, I think we need to shock them and we need to get 1-0 ahead quite quickly.
Oh, okay.
So once we're in that position, we possibly could then do some tactical changes, some in-game changes. This thing that Skinner can do in case he never did. So I think what we've got to try and avoid also is going 1-0 down, because that would be a hell of a problem. So we need to score first, is what I'm saying. So that's what I think is going to influence my answer.
See, you talking there made me think of something completely different. Is this the kind of game now where we need Hayley Ladd to come in? Now, I know she's got hardly any match practice for United, but she's playing tonight for Wales. If anyone can break down an attack and get stuck in, it's Hayley Ladd. But that would pretty much go against everything else from what we've seen so far this season. But what's your thoughts on that one, Andy?
You could do, but as I was John saying, possibly that we might need her in defence to cover Millie, depending on what happens. I like the idea. It very much depends on the ref. I know we shouldn't be sort of doing that kind of game, but she is a physical player. She's got that reputation, just like LJ last year. A couple of slightly mistimed tackles, and we could be in trouble. So there is that question. But I like the idea of her being an impact player a little bit. Maybe when people are getting a bit more tired, you bring someone on to sort of strengthen the midfield, maybe in the second half. And that would obviously link well with the fact that she's not had the game time so far this season that maybe she would have expected. So yeah, I wouldn't, because I'd worry. I don't know who the ref's going to be on Sunday, but I worry with Woso refs if they get outside if they get on the wrong side of the bed one day, suddenly you get a yellow card for sneezing, and she's going to be one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, Tanya, your thoughts on the midfield 3?
I mean, when John, you said about Hayley Ladd starting, I said, okay, fine, let's start Hayley Ladd. But Andy's made a very good point that you need someone in the defense as well. And from what I've seen from Chelsea's defense, they like to play that WWE defending, putting.
Oh yeah, with the
yeah.
I think it was Magda Eriksson against Kirsty Hansen, I think, last season. So I would want someone on the bench as well. So Hayley Ladd doesn't start. I think we'll start with the Katie Zellem and Lucy Staniforth, what we did in the Leicester game, as the two midfielders, and Tooney drops to the midfield as well as the attacking midfielder. And I think Martha Thomas starts this game. We need a number 9. We need someone who goes forward and who's the striker. So I think Martha Thomas might start. And I think Alicia Russo makes an appearance off the bench against her old club as well. She is also an ex-Chelsea player.
So it got some different ideas already. John, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, after listening to Skinner, I don't think he's going to bring Jackie Grunin straight into the team. From listening to him, he was on about she's a great player, but I forgot how he put it. But we've got a lot of great players, and she's one of many. I honestly think he'll probably stick with very similar side that he has already. whether that's the right side, I'd be tempted to put Jackie Gronin on in, and despite everything we said about her, play her instead of Katie Zellum, and have Katie Zellum and Lucy Staniforth as your industrious. Sorry, Jackie Gronin and Lucy Staniforth as your industrious two, and the I can never say her name, Bo Risa as the more attacking focus, and carry on playing Tooney up front and carry on playing. They're very strong in the middle, so I think actually a false nine works probably better against a team like Chelsea than it will do other teams, because they've got two centre-backs who's going to be marking nothing. And then it's how well they defend in the channels. And in Hansen and Leah Galton, you've got two players that run the channels brilliantly. But to do that, you must have a midfield that can keep the ball. And for me, Katie, even now, still has a tendency to lose the ball in dangerous places. Because she's a risk taker. So
what John wants to do is drop one of our players of pre-season, someone who can score and score free kicks. So we may only get a chance to score free kicks, but we'll drop a free kick taker. We'll drop our captain, and just as he gets called up for the Lionesses, shoot her back down for one of the biggest games of the season. I know.
I'm playing the name. It's probably me playing the name, but
I'm only winding you up, John. I think a lot of people might agree with you there. Connie, what are your thoughts?
See, the reason why I've just asked can Hayley Ladd play as centre-back is because, and I think Stu raised this after the Reading game, and I'm going to throw a complete curveball in and say if Turner didn't get an injury against Leicester, we could have seen a back five or a back three, whichever way you want to look at it, against Chelsea, because then the two fullbacks can be even higher, and then you can go more attacking in the middle because you've got the protection of an extra centre-back there. That's why I asked that question, can Hayley Ladd play there? Because I don't think he will. I think he will stick with this kind of 4-2-3-1, 4-2-3, 4-3-3 kind of false nine, but it's an option, especially when Turner comes back, especially with the way that Mannion and Maria are playing. You don't want to be dropping either of those at the minute. In terms of your question on the midfield, I wouldn't change it, if I'm being totally honest. I would keep it as it is. With the team that started against Reading, I probably wouldn't put Jackie in there, to be honest. And that's nothing. I'm not saying that I haven't seen her play, so I can't give a full judgment on how she is. Obviously, she only had 20 minutes against Reading, and the game against Leicester where she should have scored 2 or 3 goals, but played pretty well there. But yeah, I would go Zellum, Staniforth. I want to see Toon drop back, but I think against Chelsea, like John mentioned, a false nine would probably be the better option. I think you could have a number 9 in there as an out ball almost. If you played Martha Thomas, then you could play that kind of long ball over the top should that option be there. But like John said there, Chelsea's strong in the middle. I think Toon's going to drop even deeper as a false 9, and then you're relying on those kind of inside forward runs, like on the diagonal from Galton and Hansen, whoever it is. So yeah, I would keep it the same team that started against Reading, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I like Jackie Gronin really good, and what would help her in the Chelsea game is the press. Her and Tooney are the best pressers of the ball we've got. I think that's my other thought about it. But yeah, I wouldn't argue if they left Jackie on the bench. She's good. She came up first game of last season. She came on and helped United score against Chelsea. So I'm not going to complain.
Good point. Yeah, absolutely. That's what happened. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is most of the rest of the global Reds, apart from Latano, would be kicking off massively if Jackie gets benched. But we'll find.
Maybe she'll come on and score a winner, because that could quite easily happen, couldn't it? John,
just wanted to say that Chelsea lack those fullbacks right now. We saw against Arsenal as well that they didn't play really well defending at the fullback position. So I think playing Tooney as the false 9 could work when Galton and Hansen are going in, and of course fullbacks aren't there for Chelsea right now. So we might take advantage of that struggling Chelsea side.
Can I just reply to some of the comments, because some of the comments have been suggesting Alessia Russo as the forward rather than Martha Thomas, and I think if they are all fit, I'd agree. But at the moment, if you watch Alessia, she's still finding her feet. I don't think she can start for United at this moment in time, in all honesty. And I think her energy, she's just feeling her way back after a really serious injury. I think expect her to lead that line against such a good Chelsea side, that's unfair on her.
Sorry, Andy, just 2 seconds. I think we're doing the right thing with Russo by not pushing her in. But for me, I'm kind of getting frustrated because we see her coming on as a sub. I think it was even for when it was in Rangers in Glasgow. I'm sure she came on there. And how many times can she keep on coming on as a sub, having between 10 and 30 minutes before it gets to a point where she can start the game and at least have 60 minutes? I don't know anything that's going on behind the scenes when it comes to Russo's injury, but it's been a while now, and I'm just thinking, come on, let's just test it out. Let's just see if she can start a game and see how far she can go, even if it's just the first half. But that's just me being probably too pushy. But I agree.
I think that's a fair enough point. But I think if you look at her energy and starting speed, it's still not there. And I think that's the key thing. If she pushes herself, because it wasn't so much just the injury, it was afterwards. So much happened afterwards. Because her injury doesn't take that long to recover from. It's serious enough because it was hamstring, wasn't it? And groin, and she had something around that area that was going on.
Yeah, something else knocked her back just before
So
pre-season.
it's definitely knocked her back. And if you look at her speed and her recovery pace and everything that you expect, and she was really brilliant at that explosive speed. She just hasn't got it at the moment. And I think you play your fitter player at the moment. But I totally agree. Out of the two, you definitely want to be playing Russo fully fit.
Just to throw a little grenade in there, because I'm trying to think like Emma Hayes, scary mental space to put myself. But I'll go there anyway. Do you think that Lauren James might start against her old club as point one? Just because that's the kind of thing she'd pull, saying she's ready, then suddenly, she's in the start 11 against us. And the second point, would you start the Brazilian Lauren James, or at least have her on the bench?
Got to have her on the bench.
Ivana Russo. Because there must be a reason why
she wasn't sent to Brazil,
Yeah, well, that's COVID, but I still think she's kind of been given a we'll play you kind of thing as well, because of how long it would have taken for her to quarantine back.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just being mischievous. Maybe I'm just being mischievous, but I'd love it to be a breakthrough game for Ivana, because none of us have really seen her yet. And for her to announce herself or something like that. But I don't know. Would you maybe put her on the bench then?
Go on, LJ. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think? This will be like the first time that we'll see her in a Chelsea shirt, and it appears to be against Man United.
I don't think LJ would start. Emma Hayes would go for Fran Kirby and Sam Kerr at the front. Maybe she might make an appearance off the bench. And to what Andy said, I think yes, there was a reason. Like Fuso, of course, COVID was there, but I think Marc Skinner is of the idea that we'll include Fuso into the mix as well. From what we've seen, I think she can play that Tony role, the number 10, false 9, or maybe on the wing as well. So we as fans also don't really know what her best position is, and I don't think Marc Skinner also knows. And I'm just saying like that. So maybe we'll see Ivana Fuso come off the bench. I don't think she'll start.
I mean, the club did release footage of her training, so they're obviously pushing her as, no, don't forget this player. I don't know, maybe it's a double bluff.
I think we just haven't seen enough of Andy, so we don't know her best position because we haven't seen her in any position, so to speak. I mean, I don't think she's an out-and-out striker. She's not going to be ahead of Russo or Martha Thomas. I don't think she could quite easily play a 10. And even the training exercise that we saw, she's in the middle. She's getting the ball from the left, doing something, then passing it to the right, and then vice versa. So she's in the middle there. I can't see her being on the wing unless if she needs to be on the wing. She's not first choice in any part of in any position just yet. But that's not down to ability. We just haven't seen enough of her, and she hasn't been able to get that run of games. But did you want to jump on that one, Andy?
No, I was just thinking also as well, just as following the sort of general pattern about the international break. Isn't it rather frustrating that you get 2 games an international break, and then is it only again another 2 before another international break?
I
It's like
don't.
they haven't heard. It's like they haven't heard the word momentum.
It's
Like
bloody ridiculous.
if you were Willie Kurt right now, you'd probably be quite happy because currently you're looking at sort of job applications, I imagine, and it gives you a chance to sort of set yourself up and come back like looking like you know how to manage something. But obviously, with us sort of doing well first 2 games, it's a big banana skin depending on how we come back against Chelsea. But Ella's scored tonight. All right, it's against Macedonia, but hopefully we keep that positivity. The sort of positivity, red wave, stuff that Skinner's doing. Get her through the next England game and hopefully do well against Chelsea.
Does anyone else think LJ could start or come off the bench at all?
It is. I've not seen Emma Hayes as being that
Clever.
imaginative. I went for imaginative. I mean, she's obviously a bloody good. She's obviously a good manager. It's, you wouldn't get where she is, but she doesn't seem a particularly imaginative manager.
I think she's good. She's good at the sort of the way she moans about certain things in the press, and she knows how to get in people. I wouldn't be surprised to see it. Now, I might be completely wrong, and we'll look back at this thinking, Christ, you're absolutely off the mark massively. But I really wouldn't be surprised at the very least if she's not on the bench and gets on.
How do the supporters react to Lauren James then? Because I haven't got the same love for her as you all have. I would be really like, I would probably, because it's a less aggressive environment. I would probably not be quite as confrontational as I have with some players, but I would definitely not be happy.
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at Leicester. Let's just look at Leicester because obviously we had Jess playing against us for the first time. Abby McManus as well, as well as Charlie.
I really like Jess.
Been a while for her. And we made sure there wasn't much support coming from our side anyway. But yeah, I think it's more the absence of support rather than active negative.
Yeah,
which is kind of the same thing. Go on, John.
There is one player who could potentially get booed this season coming back to LSB, and I'm not talking about Alex Greenwood.
Oh, okay.
I reckon Tobin could, and I know a lot of US fans won't want to do that, but the fact that she's
I would. I'd bloody give her all sorts.
Maybe that's the game I can take you up there, John. But yeah, I'm a bit worried about that one. I agree. Jessie's going to get booed coming back to LSV. I don't think LJ will. Abby wouldn't. None of the other players would. But Tobin, the way it's kind of worked, I think there's a few fans out there that's a bit unhappy with the decision to do that. We'll go down that route on a different show, maybe near the Arsenal game. But I think that's going to be an interesting one, definitely. John, we have run over a little bit, but do you want to jump on your final topic?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. We've been talking positively about defence, attack, and what's there. But what I came to say is we've seen an injury to Millie. We've just seen a potential injury to Ella. For me, that it makes it more important. What's going to be our priority in January transfer window? Is it going to be defence or is it going to be attack? Because if Millie has dislocated a knee, that means ligaments and tendons are involved. That's going to be, she's going to be off for a while. So we know what this board is like. We aren't going to get a crocload of players like Chelsea or an Arsenal will. So if they say one player, what are we going to prioritise?
Maybe I'll just jump ahead on this then. Everyone's waiting for it, but I'm
guessing striker.
I think attackers are people too. I think we need to start discriminating against the attackers. I think we need to start giving them some jobs, possibly Man United contracts. That'd be nice. No, he's made that decision now. He's gone for stronger defense, weaker attack in September. In January, I think it has to be a striker, not just because I'm biased, but also because it's an easier reason to get around the whole bonding of the team thing. You've got someone who can bring a goal. You can slot them at the front rather than necessarily having to build them into an existing structure as much. And as Karen's pointing out there, and I just think it's an easier sell for everybody. Maybe for a board that's not used to doing anything in January because of Casey. Maybe it's an easier sell to the rest of the squad. It's given us that attacking option, because at the moment we are looking blunt in attack. That's the only thing.
I'll have Marcel this one. I think a deal would have probably already been for January. I think deals would already be spoken about now, or even worked on in the summer. So with this injury, it's not great. We can always get Hayley Ladd in there or Tara Bourne if needs be. So I would probably still say an attacker.
I think you have to leave Tara where she is. She needs, from everything that's been said, she needs game time. I think bringing her back affects us long term, because if you listen to what Nat says and everything, she's a really good call for the future, and she needs games.
And she's starting regularly for Sheffield as well.
I agree. We don't need time. Saying in an emergency, I think it's more
like
instead of throwing money at a defender that probably won't play again once all three of those are fit, then throw money at a striker that we can actually keep and play long term. So I can see us going for a striker. And also, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe, I'm not going to say, Tanya, what are your thoughts?
Of course, I agree with Karen in the comments. I think Blackstein is, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing the name right, but she's the player that we need. And I think she plays for a Swedish team, and their contracts end in January. So she'll be a free agent and we don't need to pay any transfer fee. So just get the deal done. She's a wonderful striker. And I think yesterday she provided an assist as well for Sweden as they won 1-0. So just keeping my tabs on Blackstenius, because she'll be a United player. I know it for sure. So let's see.
Didn't we think the same for Barisa, though, that our contracts will end in January, she'll come to the club in January? Do we know what the problem was there then, if that's the case?
It was to do with COVID as well, wasn't it? I think COVID and the contract kind of thing.
They just affected them.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt Crane just calling me. I just hung up on him. Come on, Matt. You know I'm doing a show.
Tell him he should be on the show, not.
He knows. You guys talk amongst yourself while I just.
Okay.
As for the centre,
this is our red button show that we've always said we were going to be doing, isn't it? It's past 8 o'clock now.
I must admit, I don't.
We can always come on. How's England doing?
Well,
I mean, the thing is, it's weird for me because like Macedonia are not a great side from what I've. I mean, they're trying to shoot from kickoff, at half time. I've never seen that before in my life. Like every time they get the ball to the striker, they're shooting from 40, 50 yards. So Marios has just got to just lie on the floor and let it roll into her arm. But like I said, I keep saying Ella too is absolute. She could have had a couple of assists if Ella
people that
finished. But no, I have actually got a question on the transfer front, actually. So is there in the men's game, there's hardly any transfers that happen in January for obvious reasons, because players don't want to leave mid-season and all that kind of thing. Is there a possibility that United, 2 questions. One, do we expect any big kind of, I'm going to say big name / first team players to come in and go straight into the first team to come in January? And on top of that, is there a possibility that we see both? We see a striker and a defender coming in January?
I think. Do you want to go?
No, you go on, mate.
I was just going to say you can, because the leagues are like, for example, Australia and American League are at different times. Like, for example, so they would have finished kind of their seasons or just starting their season. So it's a bit different with that. So they might potentially come across. So that's a possibility. Also, like I said, deals get done earlier than the transfer window, which I know that happens with the men's game as well, but I think it can get done quicker and a bit more easier in the women's game. And also on this occasion, I think it's more likely than ever before, because Marc Skinner has yet to appoint someone. So maybe there's a bit of bargaining there over the summer, saying, Mark, just get through to January, see what you need, and then we'll do something in January, as opposed to just rushing it. Because there's got to be a reason why we didn't bring in a striker over the summer, apart from Martha Thomas. And maybe Mark has been quite open. I called him Mark here as if we're best mates. But maybe Mark has probably just kind of thought to himself, let's keep the board happy a little bit. Let's play with what we got. And then I'll give an honest version come December, January, just to see what's what there. Or he might give that answer out already. He's been with the team long enough to kind of know what the gaps are, and maybe things are being done right now. What are your thoughts, Andy, on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say actually quite a similar point. I think it is different because of the leagues being in a different sort of schedule. Australia is a fortress at the moment as well. Nobody's really getting in and out, including Australians. So some of the NWSL players that would have gone to the W League for a short period of time and then gone to the NWSL when they started in their league, they're just not had that opportunity. Now, obviously, our league doesn't really match that because it goes from September to May. And I'd like to think you might get an NWSL player, but then, of course, it depends on, if they're American, the US national team rules. And but you'd think because he was in the NWSL, he might have the proverbial names of a few people he'd like to make a phone call to. But then again, look how difficult it was. There was a bit of a sort of moniker that went around a sort of, said with love about us being a bit Brexit FC in the sense that we never looked at anybody that wasn't British, that was an English born or English based player. And obviously, I think the first non-EU player that we got was Tobin and Kristen, if memory serves me right, in relation to getting visas and work permits, which I appreciate they're all got to do now anyway post Brexit. So I don't know if it's maybe the same.
I think that's really interesting. I forgot the BBC guy's name who does a lot of the Brazilian information. It's interesting. Brexit really affects us EU-wise, trying to get visas for players. I don't know what, obviously, the league and the government needed to sort out a given values for international games, how long they've played for, whatever. But it's actually made it easier to bring American and safe American players through. Because I know there was a push for United to start looking bigger in the South American market, because traditionally we just haven't. We've had a lot of scouts around there, but we just haven't. It came about the guy that went to Brighton, but we were really interested in him as well. Casido or something like that. His name was midfielder. Can't remember it exactly, but that's why he was on the podcast, and it was really interesting because it has opened up a new league for talent, but it's whether we're on board with it yet.
Yeah, I mean, also as well, there's the homegrown rule, isn't there, that's coming this season about how many homegrown players. Now, we've got no problem with that. We're overflowing with them in that respect. But some of our sort of, Christ, if you're in Everton at the minute, would you like to get the exit door? I would. There might be some players that are going to take the opportunity to maybe have a little push in January for something else. To be honest, though, I'll be absolutely honest. It's wishful thinking. I really hope we get a striker, but I can also maybe equally see us not get anybody in January. But I just don't see how we can limp forward without somebody either becoming in the first team, maybe a dev becoming a starter, which is a bit obviously even harder, really, or us getting somebody in because we are so weak on attack at the moment. That's the problem.
I did pose a question to the group whether they thought Maria Edwards or Carrie would be has the bigger potential to break in this season. And I mean, both seemed good prospects, but like you say, there's such a massive gap between the dev level and the professional level at the moment. It's really hard to judge. I could actually see us bringing somebody in, but only as a temporary measure. A bit like what you said. I think this player will do from America for the rest of the season, and then they'll go on with whatever plan they've got. Because he said when he came in, United are planning for signings 2 or 3 years in advance. So I agree with you. I don't think we're going to get anybody permanent, but I could see us bringing in a player to help, and hopefully that'll be one that he knows in the American League that will maybe not so well known to some others, but will give us some good quality.
Yeah, and I'm holding on to Skinner's plan as well, but the problem is it couldn't have been in the plan that we had a weak striker point, surely. I mean, maybe it's so that sometimes the plan has to be amended slightly because you wouldn't necessarily design it in the way you've designed it this season, in the sense of being so weak on attack. But
sorry, just before I get Connor's thoughts on the game, because I know that he's actually watching it quite. No one knows what he was reacting to, Connor.
I bet everyone like Atanu and John, who I've never been on a show with, I bet they're always enthusiastic about what we're saying on there.
what are you reacting?
Just on the strikers, so I'm going to say something a bit controversial here. I think we're weak on the wings because we've already got Hansen and Galton as proper dribblers, proper wingers. But up front, if Russo's fit, if Thomas is fit, we know Tooney can play there, and we've yet to see what Fuso can do. I don't think it's the end of the world. It's the fact that we started the season with Russo and Thomas not playing, and we're relying on Tooney as a false nine, because that's the only way to get the best out of Tooney in that position. I think if we started the season with Russo and Thomas fit fighting it out, we may not even be having this conversation. We might be looking at like a more of a winger. But that's just throwing that one out there. That when them pair are both fit, yes, I would like one more, of course. But you only play one up front, and I've just named 3 there, 4 potentially with Fuso. So it's not the end of the world, but it's the fact that those pair are fit, isn't it?
I think that's a good point. But I think they haven't shown signs that they can be the striker that scores us 10, 15, 18 goals this season that will propel us into that top 3. I can think of 2 blatant misses from Martha Thomas already. I mean, criminally bad misses. And and as much as I praise Kirsty Hansen like previously for changing my mind, when she went past that keeper and the shot she did, that was just criminal. It was criminal. It was so tame. We can't afford to have our strikers, our forwards doing that. I'm not going to criticise them too much because obviously we talked about that last time, and it's good that Skinner seems to not already be aware of that, and he's already talking about changing the mentality and everything. But it is a worry. I think it's more important than having them fit if we had 2 strikers that were fighting head to head, scoring goals. You wouldn't be talking about this.
I'm hoping at some point this season we will see those 2 battle it out.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's the case. Connor, I'm going to end the show with yourself, mate. Is something happening on the screen right now?
I mean, a penalty's been given. That is a complete dive. That is. There's no way that's in England. But 2 things. 1, she's tripped over her own feet, and 2, it's outside the box. So I don't know how that's been given as a pen. Ellen White.
I'll tell you, mate. Send it to Sky. Send it on.
That's 4 now. Ellen White's made it 4. But I mean, that's not a penalty. She's tripped over her own foot outside the box. This was given as a penalty. So I don't get that. But in terms of Mary Earps has had nothing to do. She's had about 3 shots, I think, at her. 2 from 40 yards, 1 from 55 at her halfway line. So she's had absolutely nothing to do all game. So I can't really give a performance review because she's done nothing. But Ella Toon, I am amazed. I've literally just tweeted it. She has been the complete heartbeat of this team today. Like, involved in every single attack, where it's going out left, if it's going out right, she's running to the far right and covering the right hand side, making runs like we alluded to earlier, like what Kansai used to do, running past the striker. That's what's really impressed me. But she knows what I've loved watching this game today, watching Ella. She knows when to make a run past the striker, and then she knows when to hold and be that creator. And I think that's what's really impressed me. Like I said, she's obviously impressed with the 2 United games.
Has she seemed to shake off that injury then, do you think?
Yeah, she's running perfectly fine now in this second half. I would still take her off anyway, just because I want to wrap them in cotton wool, so to speak, and protect them as much as we can. But as a performance, I've been not surprised because I know the kind of quality she's got after seeing her twice, against Reading and Leicester. But I didn't think she'd be the heartbeat of this team. I think if you take her out of this team, England still win this game, quite comfortably. But the amount of chances she's created, she could have had a hat-trick inside 10 minutes, with a header and then 3 shots 6 yards out. She could have had a number of assists. Ellen White's hit a couple off the bar. Beth Mead's missed a couple as well. So she has been the complete heartbeat of this team. That's probably the easiest way I can put it for people that aren't watching it.
So I agree. I totally agree with you. When the idea we were going to lose Lauren James in the summer became more and more prominent, and a lot of meltdown was happening, I was less concerned because of the way Tooney is developed. So I honestly think out of the two players, I think unless something drastic happens, although Lauren James has more talent, I think Ella Tooney will be the best player.
That's a good note to end it on. Andy, put your comments in the private chat, or we'll do the red button show afterwards after we go live. But really enjoy that one, guys. It's the first time that we've actually watched a football match whilst live, which is something interesting. Maybe it's something we can do again in the future, maybe.
Yeah, Bagsy can me.
Atano, if anybody wants to find you, where can they do that? And your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I'm at the rate of Tanu_74 on Twitter and the United Star on YouTube.
Awesome, thank you. John, if anyone wants to find you on Twitter, how can they do that?
Yeah, just follow the name there. I will answer most things.
Okay. It makes me think that someone's asked you something, but you haven't quite wanted to answer that one. You answer most things, but not everything. Okay. DJ Conor Roberts, how can people find you?
Yeah, so the @ is below, but I will also shout out the All for United men's account as well. We actually want more people from the women's channel over there because we want to hear your kind of thoughts, with what's going on with the men's team, and also, just in general, it's nice to get some more people over there. I know a few people from the men's channel, like myself, have come over here, which is good. And also Bridging the Gap as well. We'll be back in about 3 weeks' time. John will be back on that. Natalie will be on it, where we just, as it says on the tin, bridging the gap between men's and women's football. So that'll be back in about 3 weeks' time as well. So yeah, obviously my Twitter thing's there, but the All for United account as well.
Awesome, thank you. And Andy, yourself?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I told you, my very well designed Twitter handle that I just did nothing not based on part of my date of birth and names, honest. But I'll get going on this social media business. But yeah, at AJO_87 to see me say silly things about things I shouldn't probably say things about. That's generally what it's on there.
Hashtag Emma Hayes. That's pretty much it. Brilliant. Really enjoyed tonight, guys. We are going to wrap it up now. It's getting a bit late, especially for Atano. But thank you for staying up late. And enjoy the rest of the game, guys. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you.